Thank you so much, Chairwoman Maloney. You know, another day, another line about Green New Deal hysteria, right? But right now, New York City and people in New York City can't even see a couple neighborhoods down if they're up in a building because of the smog and the smoke from wildfires in Colorado or on the West Coast. Isn't that right, Ms. Salter?
Well, I won't speak for the Colorado wildfires, but even before the wildfires, the smog, the soot, and the pollution makes it hazy and hard to see, absolutely.
So I have a pretty simple question. And I want to talk about physical infrastructure investments that we've made so far, as well as those that we're looking to make in the future. When the water comes and when the floods come, which communities are going to be endangered and vulnerable the most?
We know from past events, including Hurricane Superstorm Sandy, that it is absolutely the low-income, Black and brown communities, and in particular, women and children.
When the fires come, which communities do not have facilities outfitted with HEPA filters and other sorts of access to clean air?
Once again, it is low-income communities, primarily communities of color.
When the storms come, which communities have the most fragile power grids?
Once again, and yes, it is our distribution system, which is the weakest link, and it is low-income communities of color, and these are where the investments certainly need to be.
On the flip side, when the fires come, what sorts of communities have their homes outfitted with HEPA filters as well as their schools or other public facilities?
Anecdotally, I can certainly with confidence say that it is the high-income communities that have the best school and residential home infrastructure.
Now, I think it's important for us to note this because this is not just about future investments. This is about a betrayal from our past. Because policymakers, many of the same ones who are defending the fossil fuel industry today, also deliberately underinvested in resilient infrastructure for the communities, some of whom they may even represent, for the most vulnerable communities in their states and districts. So one of the things that we saw recently was just unprecedented flooding in the Detroit area, and particularly in this area of Dearborn, Michigan. There was one part of Dearborn that was completely flooded. Basements, first floors, etc. And on the other side of Dearborn was fine. You would have thought it was just a small storm. Now, what we know is that years ago, the local government decided to put almost all of the water pump systems in the affluent area of Dearborn, and almost none of the water pump systems, which is what brings the water out when it's flooding, in low-income, immigrant, working class, white working class, Black, brown working class communities. They had almost no water filtration systems, leaving all of their homes to flood. Tell me about what impact that has on generational wealth for these communities.
It is a devastating impact, and that is exactly why the American Jobs Plan needs to ensure not only early action on emissions and co-pollutant reductions in frontline communities, but also take into account the cumulative impacts of past policy on current wealth, past wealth, in addition to health.
Thank you very much.